Today on MuscleCar, it's clear coat tech and quarter panel repair you can do on the cheap. Plus, a look back at the rare and radical Plymouth Superbird.
Welcome to MuscleCar. Last time you saw the Crate Camaro, it was in the spray booth getting some pretty red paint on it. Since then, we've blown it back apart, sent the front end out to get powder coated.
Yeah, we painted the underside of this thing and turned every area that's not going to be red black. That'll keep this thing looking real detailed as it goes together. And speaking of details, I want to show you some tricks that'll really help your paint job out after your car leaves the paint booth.
You remember when our Crate Camaro looked like this? That reproduction body from year one was all primer when it came in our door. We did a lot of filling and grinding and sanding, and it seemed like wheat. And that was just getting ready for paint. We put in the new front subframe. We put the motor in and out of this baby 2 or 3 times just to make sure everything fit just right. But there's always a little adjustment along the way. Jared's about to deal with something that might show up on your own paint job.
Alright, so you're ambitious enough to paint your own car, and then afterwards you notice a couple of problems in the clear coat, like runs, orange peel, or dirt. I mean, check out this gravity indicator I got in here. But it's not the end of the world. I'm going to show you how to take care of these little things with something called wet sanding. Alright, this job's going to start with wet or dry sandpaper. Usually a grit like 600, and then you can work your way all the way up to 3000. But you don't want to start with a grit rougher than 600.
The clear coat is the hardest one to get right because the paint is so much thinner than the colored coats. We're wet sanding to keep the sandpaper from clogging up. The water helps the dust flow away rather than sticking to the sandpaper or the paint.
You want to switch from the rougher grits like 6 and 800 as soon as you knock down most of the run, and then come back with like 1000 and 15 and work your way up pretty rapidly. This is going to help keep you from breaking through. You also want to be careful to take your time so you don't sand through the clear coat, because then you got big problems.
Jared's focusing on the run right now and leaving the rest of the fender alone because the run is the only part of the fender that needs 600 grit paper. If you're not paying attention, you'll go right through that clear coat and then it's too late.
If you don't have any runs and you just have to go after dirt or orange peel, you're going to want to start with 1500 grit and work your way up from there.
You can do this with a machine, but it's dangerous. Jared will use a machine when it gets to around 3000 grit, but it's like sanding with a piece of notebook paper.
And here's the last step. 3000 grit on a DA is going to get rid of all those other scratches before we polish. Oh, and one more thing, never ever sand an edge. You don't need to, and you're guaranteed to break through, and you don't want that.
Once you work over the whole panel and you have all the scratches out, wipe it down with a clean paper towel to make sure you didn't break through.
Because it's wet, sometimes it's hard to tell if you cut through your clear coat into your base. A good indicator would be if the base color was on your paper towel. When you get done wiping it off, then it's time to go home and cry about it.
But as you would expect, our fender's perfect. So Jared's gonna polish it out for that final shine.
Be careful when you're polishing too to stay away from edges because the buffer will always cut through. And also don't stay in one place for too long because you'll get the paint hot and mess it up.
Get it, let me see what you're doing here.
See, the run's gone. Told you I could get rid of it.
I can see myself!
Run's gone, dirt's gone,
Looks
orange
good,
peel.
man.
What have you been working on?
Nothing.
Yeah, let's go see about that.
I've been lollygagging.
I believe it. Here we go, dual ratchets. We've been in this situation before.
Big progress this week on the Crate Camaro. We've had the engine in it before. This time it's going in to stay. And that Crate 350 is going to sit in front of a GM Performance transmission.
Pump.
We're going with the ZZ4 crate motor.
Ready?
And the 4L60E four-speed computer-controlled automatic overdrive.
All right, last time we had the engine in here, we noticed there wasn't much firewall clearance for the distributor that came with the engine. So we're going to trade it out for a small cap distributor. Lou's going to show you how to do that and get your engine on top dead center and get all that stuff done right. Let's push it on back and see where we're at.
The engine goes in before the accessories go on. We're less likely to break something, and it's just easier to work this way.
Limbo champion. 2002.
All right, hold on. Going with the yellow hammer. Get everything lined up inside the engine so we can put in the distributor. Yellow hammer works.
These yellow hammers never let you down.
Yellow hammer! Ah! Pull out all the spark plugs so you won't be fighting the compression when you're turning over the engine. Now, when you bar the engine over, you're gonna turn the crankshaft by hand till the #1 piston comes to top dead center compression stroke.
Compression starts now.
We put the engine at top dead center #1 so the distributor can tell the spark plug when to fire. So it's on the compression stroke, really important. But we realized that this HEI would hit the firewall, so we decided to get a Mallory with a smaller cap. Nice piece, don't have to modify the firewall. Ha!
Need a hand with that? Hey, say you guys want to start a project, but you don't want to take on anything of this size, we'll show you what to look for coming up.
Coming up, backyard body repair you can do. All metal, no mud.
That's where I need that shape. Hey guys, welcome back to MuscleCar. You are not going to believe what Lou and I found. This is a 1970 Nova with only like 30,000 original miles on it.
That comes out to something around 17 miles a week on this fashionable inline 236 cylinder.
This is the ultimate old lady car, and you're probably never going to find one like it, but if you want to try, we'll show you what to look for.
Hey, can we call this thing Project Blue Hair?
Whatever you want, man. Whatever you want, Santiago.
Now this is a find with a lot of potential. It really did belong to a little old lady who drove it 17 miles a week. This was about a $2,200 car back in 1970, and we paid her great-granddaughter $7,500 for it. That's more than 3 times the original price, but it's still some kind of deal.
The most obvious area on this car is this little spot of rust, but this is in no way a deal killer. We can fix that pretty easily. And as I looked on, I noticed body work in the quarter panel here. Because I could see the sand scratches under the paint, the next thing that really gave it away was the fact that this edge is really inconsistent. It's bulbous, and there's a lot of hips and dips and valleys and things in it. And then when I ran my hand behind the quarter, I could feel the dents that the body filler's hiding. Now these are things to search for when you're looking for that perfect project car. And check out this interior. It's like 36 years old and pretty much perfect. Since we're going to leave this thing a sleeper, this is going to save us a lot of work. We're just going to leave it alone. So I'm going to turn it over to Lou, who's going to show you what to look for underneath and on the mechanical side of things. Blue hair.
You never want to look at a car at night because you can't see nothing. The other thing, during the day, bring a flashlight with you. You might have to look underneath the dashboard. This way you can see what you're looking at, your potential car. Let's get this thing in the air. You look for structural damage. All this up here looks really good. This car obviously has not been punched in the nose at any time. And if it was, they did a really good repair. But it wasn't. Look for leaks. I mean, there's oil on the oil pan. So there's more than likely going to be oil on the ground. But I mean, it's probably from the valve cover gasket. It's all minor stuff. Depending on what direction you want to go with the car, it's a really sound car. And only a teeny spot of rust on the toe board? That's an easy fix. Obviously, this is some professional exhaust repair work that's been done here. They use the drive shaft to hold the exhaust pipe in place. I kind of like that. It's high tech. This car overall is in great shape. If the only thing you got is some rust in the toe boards, you're doing good for a car that's 30-something years old. Notice how I said 30-something. Women don't like to divulge their age.
Get out of there so don't crush us.
No.
This car may be in good shape, but it is 30-some-odd years old. And we got a couple things that we need to take care of. Like this. Now, there is no need to replace the whole quarter panel for something like that. You can just go to your local hardware store and get some steel the same thickness and go to town. All right, the first step's just going to be to cut the old area out with straight cuts and get rid of the rust. One of the most important steps is to get rid of what caused the rust in the first place, and in this case, it was definitely this foam. Come out.
The foam's there for sound deadening, but it can also collect moisture.
Oh, we'll see you later. A present for you. The main goal in grinding like this is to get rid of all the rust. All right, now we got the area free of paint and rust, so we got a good clean starting and stopping point for our new metal.
This is regular old 18 gauge mild steel.
The first line of defense in keeping those new pieces from rusting is to spray all the bare metal areas with some weld-through primer, then you're ready to rock. I'm going to go ahead and make our patch piece out of 3 pieces total because there's a lot of complex shape here and that's going to help me to do it a little easier. Okay, see where I still have this tail sticking up? That's where I need that shape to be put in. I'm going to show you how I'm going to do that. There you go, good as new. All it took was a couple hours, some hand tools, and a welder. And if you have a weekend, you can attack several areas like this on your car and really turn it around.
Next on MuscleCar, Plymouth only made it for 1 year, but the potent Superbird is still flying.
1970 was a classic year for American muscle cars. This one here, though, wasn't too muscular when you got it new. But that's all going to change when we get done with it.
Yeah, and for this week's MuscleCar Flashback, Lou and I got to drive another 70. Now, it was a Mopar, and this thing was a muscle car right off the lot.
Oh, yeah.
MuscleCar Flashback. This week, the Superbird.
That was awesome.
Oh my God, we're driving a Superbird! They were too fast on the track and just too weird for the showroom. The Superbird's long beak and tail were designed for NASCAR super speedways. And the birds won so many races, they were outlawed after 1 season. You could buy them for the street with the monster 426 Hemi, the Super Commando 444 barrel, or the legendary 446 pack. Chrysler made 2 wing cars in 69 and 70, the Superbird and the Dodge Daytona. The Superbird's vinyl roof is the easy way to tell them apart. It's there to cover up the rough bodywork around the special aerodynamic rear window. But that slippery shape and at least 375 horsepower totally stock meant the racing Superbird would run well over 200 miles an hour. And the birds at your local Plymouth dealership, they weren't that far behind.
Let's go find some cops and get them chasing through the woods.
Yeah. All I got to say is the last time I drove one of these, I stole it. Superbirds look like some kind of crazy spaceship sitting there next to all the other new cars. But they were really standard Plymouth Roadrunners with an extra 19 inches in the nose. What looked like a streamlined park bench was a 2-foot spoiler that ran across the rear deck, and it had a cartoon Roadrunner horn. Chrysler made these because they had to. They needed an aero package to keep up on the track. But NASCAR wouldn't let the Superbirds run until they actually went on sale at the Plymouth dealerships. They were in big demand on the racetrack, but not on the streets. Some of them sat on the dealership lot for as long as 2 years, brand new. Quarter-mile times were usually pretty close to the standard Roadrunner, but longer runs were something entirely different. Once you get that bird up to speed, you know all that aero stuff is there for one good reason: going fast.
You get up around 90, 100 mile an hour. You can feel the downforce starting to push the car into the ground.
Plymouth made just under 2,000 Superbirds, and maybe half of those are still around. Most of them had 440s under the hood. Only 135 were Hemi, and the price of those is through the roof. The highest tag we know of was $194,000. That's nearly 50 times the original price. Today, a beat-up bird that barely runs, it'll cost you at least 30 grand. But that is a piece of racing history, a classic example of American muscle.
The engine's in, and it's going together. More Crate Camaro coming up.
Hey, welcome back to the shop. We decided for the accessory system to go with a Vintage Air Front Runner kit. And the reason why we decided to do that, because we're giving this car away. So we figured, you know what? Let's just put as many cool parts on this thing as we can. We're using a serpentine belt setup because it's more compact and it gives us a cleaner looking setup. This way there's more room for your accessories Not to mention, it's a real simple install.
One step I would never leave out at this stage in your build is using a sound deadening product like this stuff from HushMat. It's got an adhesive back on it that allows you to stick it to an open panel. And the goal is to cover about 75% of the car with this stuff, and it really makes it sound more like a luxury car than an old clunker from the 60s.
This stuff works by killing the vibrations in the body panels, so you want to stick it just about anywhere there's a flat panel that can transmit some kind of noise.
Say you've got an old muscle car, that sucker's rattling and making noises that'd wake the dead. Mr. Santiago, how would you take care of something like this?
What we've done is we've covered 75% of this quarter panel of this 1969 Camaro with HushMat. And what it does is it makes it as quiet as a church mouse. That's right, listen right here. And for a limited time.
What's that you say, a limited time? Yes, a limited time only you can get this product. Operators are standing by.
Seriously, this is good stuff. It does make your car a lot more comfortable. And when you're doing your wiring, stick your wires down with little pieces of sound deadener so they don't rub on the body.
We got word that some of you guys want us to put EFI on the Crate Camaro. We decided not to go that route. Why? Because EFI just wouldn't be cool on a vintage 69 Camaro. That's what we think. So we decided to go with the Endurashine carburetor. Now, Edelbrock made this baby to match their manifold. And the thing that's cool about it, you don't have to polish it. Less work.
It doesn't just look better than the original, it works better too. It uses metering rods between the circuits. This way you get smooth throttle response, and its simple, straightforward design is easy to adjust, and it holds up a tune.
We decided to hold off on putting all the body panels on for one simple reason. You're not scratching them up, you're not leaning over the car. That's actually two reasons, but that's okay. It makes it easier to access everything as we go along. So I'm gonna put on this fuel pump. You guys go get a cold beverage and do whatever it is you do. I'll see you next week.